Hey guys, welcome to a triple commentary. I have both Cholera and Clazzard alongside. Sorry for the delay, we had a bit of a coordination issue getting together to do Lomo versus fOu. Wanted to make sure Cholera was involved because he's just done so many games thus far. This is going to be on Othello between fOu and Lomo. Just a heads up, I know who wins the set. I hear it's a great set though, and I'll do my best not to spoil that. However, Cholera is going to be alongside with this, and he has managed to be unspoilt. And it should be really interesting. I don't I really pretending here that I don't know who the winner is. Just prior to this, we saw fOu very much struggle in his last TVT versus 4GG, and I don't think that, and that was just the day prior to this game. So really that does not bode well for him against Lomo, especially because I think he ended up losing more or less with Wraiths in that that fight, Wraith versus Wraith action. He was caught from behind, but Lomo's been very strong with the creative strategies. Basically, fOu is playing stale, and Lomo is playing extremely creatively, and I think that plays into Lomo's favor, and I think Lomo's been very effective on this map in particular, Othello. So it should be interesting to see. I believe that's fOu starting in the upper right hand corner in white. We have Lomo starting at the 11 o'clock position in brown. But really, we'll see how it works out. fOu has just not been playing creatively. He's been playing catch-up. He hasn't been scouting very well. We're on the opposite end. Lomo's been very creative. He's been very on top of scouting. He's been basically, yeah, just all over the place. Been reacting perfectly. His micros look fantastic. That was actually, I remember a long time ago hating Lomo, and the issue was I just felt like he just sat around, tried to macro up and waited for his opponents to make a move before he did anything. But now he's been depicting the game. So hopefully we'll see him really come down, take the hammer down on top of fOu's head. That's really actually what I'm hoping for. I want to see the young player advance here.
Well, hi guys, this is Cholera. But yeah, I agree with you that fOu has been playing stale recently, and actually, I'm a little happy to see right now that we're not seeing the standard 14 command center he's been doing in his last few games. He's been going for this 14 command center in the game you said against 4GG, but I also have to say, I casted an entire series of KTF Lake Half, and he came back very well in the closer. Sorry for the spoiler for those of you who haven't watched, but it's directly relevant to this. He came back and finished off the series in the ace matchup against Hiri, another decent Terran versus Terran player, and he opened 14 command center, got Wraith Rush, pretty much the same as against 4GG, and he actually pulled it off very well. He pulled off a very solid defense and came back to win. And I still have very good hope for fOu. I think he is in a bit of a mini slump, but I have to say though, I mean, statistics do speak for themselves. fOu is an absolute Terran versus Terran sniper. He is lifetime record is 69%, almost 70% against Terran. Here we're seeing, by the way, both players going for the one base opening here, going for their barracks refinery and now factory, probably a 12 racks, 12 refinery. And in any case, he is an absolute stellar Terran versus Terran player. He's 30 and 14 in his lifetime stats, and I have to say, a mini slump like he's in right now, a bit of a blow to his confidence, probably isn't enough for Lomo to win this series, in my opinion. Lomo overall statistics: 8 wins, 9 losses against Terran, 47%. He did play very creative StarCraft against Quanro in the round of 16. I have to say I very much enjoyed that series. He was very creative, but I don't know. I still have to say though, fOu, and fOu by the way is the younger player. fOu I think still has I would still say is the favorite in this matchup. Unless, and if he doesn't win this, I have to say I would be strongly suspecting a slump if he did somehow manage to lose the series.
fOu starting up a starport, so we've seen the divergence in the strategy here. fOu straight away putting the starport down, Lomo going for the natural expo. So we're seeing something aggressive from fOu here, and I think I have a couple of things to say. First of all, is there such a thing as an unspoiled StarCraft commentator? Lomo meanwhile has got his factory down, putting the siege shop down. The problem for Lomo is that even though he's scouting fairly early-ish, he started scouting earlier than fOu, but unfortunately for him, because he decided to scout in the counterclockwise direction, by the time his scout arrives, fOu is probably going to have his ramp blocked off. So Lomo's not going to suspect anything with the starport. It'll be interesting whether fOu gets the control tower down and tries to get a couple of drops going and take the advantage early on. Obviously, once he's gone for this strategy, he'll need to affect serious amount of damage to Lomo's economy and Lomo's build. Lomo is also now going for the starport, obviously realizing that mobility is a key, and with the ability to position, I think, siege. We've seen at previous Terran versus Terran matches, the ability to position siege on ramps above mineral lines, especially above that natural expo, makes the ability to have that dropship key. So what we might have here is if fOu can get his dropship out, and I have no doubt that he's going for the dropship. That's now been scouted by Lomo. Lomo floating the racks over, and I have to say that fOu could have probably positioned that starport better. He could have probably positioned it in the top right-hand corner of the map, in that corner of his base, and that would have rendered it a little bit more difficult to detect, a little bit longer. But fOu now pushing out with a siege tank and a couple of marines, trying to put some pressure on Lomo and hoping to get get that dropship out, because if he can get Siege going up above that mineral line before Lomo can get his dropships out, then it might be very difficult for Lomo to defend this. But we're going to see how Lomo copes with this strategy of Flash's. The other thing I would like to say is I think a couple of things. First of all, Flash has been playing a lot of StarCraft in the Pro League and all of that, and perhaps that was why we saw his mini stump. The other thing I would wonder is whether he was really trying his hardest and his best in all of those Pro League games. We saw how he came out against Lomo and how he trashed him. So the other question I have to ask is how hard has Flash been trying, generally speaking, in the losses that we've seen him take recently? I suppose obviously his lost luxury we cannot argue. And instantly he's produced Wraith first, so he's got a Wraith coming out first, not a dropship. So he's probably going to get cloaking technology as well. I would have thought they would have gone for a dropship, but the Wraith is out. He's going to take that Marine out, but the Wraith has taken a little bit of damage. So Flash looks like he's going to be ready to push in, and Flash pushing in using the SCVs. Flash pressuring Lomo right here. Lomo's going to be forced to pull his SCVs out. Flash has got a couple of Marines along with the Siege Tanks, but Flash is looking to barrel right down. He's not trying to set up any perimeter. Flash obviously having, and the Siege Tank goes down, so Flash realizing the importance of taking that Siege Tank down, but now his own tanks are coming under fire. Lomo doing a great job of maneuvering his Wraith away, trying to draw Flash's Wraith out of the picture, so that until he gets cloaking technology and wastes Flash's cloak energy, one of Flash's Siege Tanks goes down, but another one arrives to reinforce him. So Flash obviously going for the more aggressive strategy, continuing to pump units in, and he is pressuring Lomo quite a lot here. I'm not sure if Lomo will be able to pull out of this alive.
Yeah, just the production difference you can see, that additional resources spent that could be going to something else, could be going to tanks, really cost it. It would just Flash actually the perfect opportunity. I think a lot of that was scouting too, because Lomo, I think, was producing more SCVs than tanks than he really wanted to. He only had a single tank and a single Marine to defend against all of this as he's pushing in. Now he's at the very least going to end up having to lift off his secondary, in my opinion. And in the meantime, he doesn't have any detection down to really deal with that Wraith that just keeps picking away at his tank. There, it's lifted off. He's bringing back. Looks like he does have two Wraith in the meantime in the background, just hammering away the tanks. Flash trying to keep those additional SCVs off the line. I don't think Lomo minds that, simply because he's not going to be mining out of secondary in the meantime. And if Flash puts down a secondary right now, he'll be in a very prime position. He can start creating that seal like we saw. It doesn't look like he's going to leave his tanks there. He's actually backing off. I'm surprised by this. I expected him to create a little bit of a perimeter like we saw. We've seen it several times on it though. Just getting in a second starport now going down for Lomo. So Lomo wants to make sure he dominates in the air. Air is just the big factor here, and it looks like he's got an SCV in position to put that additional command center down. Let's see if Lomo decides to land that barracks. And once again, Flash pushing in with the larger, superior force he's got. So 3 Marines, 4 tanks pushing up. Armory finally going down there for Flash in the background to help deal with the race in the meantime. But again, Lomo does not have enough units. He's been behind on production. He hasn't been able to kick it up with the additional factories, that additional economy, and Flash just timing that perfectly, coming up with more Wraiths to just additional harass, and both Wraiths cloaked across the field, driving each other off. And it looks like this command center might in fact go down. Lomo's not bringing it back. He's leaving it out in the field for spotting, but I think that's very dangerous with the Wraiths out in the field. If you lose that command center, I think that could be GG. He's starting to bring it back now. Now 2 ports for Wraiths here, but I think, that command center is in fact going to go down. Huge loss for Lomo. I gotta say, Lomo is just so far behind at this point. I think Flash is going to take game 1.
Yeah, I have to say, this is an absolute brilliant strategy from Flash here, hiding the fact that he was going for a 1-base opening from Lomo, and the fact that Lomo went for starport early basically did not perturb Flash at all. He went for extra tanks. He didn't actually wait until his armory to finish to push out here, and I think he's made a very, very good timing attack. I think he saw the opportunity to take down that command center that was at half health, and he took it right now. That was just absolutely brilliant timing here. And I have to say, I'm very happy to see Flash apparently looks like he is going to take the first game of the series here, and not go for that boring 14 command center we've been seeing him do every time so far. That hasn't been very effective. I think it's especially not viable on Othello, where the cliff overlooking your natural expansion is so important that you really cannot go for a super fast expansion. Here comes the aerial combat that will decide this battle, and looks like, yes, this will seal Lomo's fate. He is going, yes, he's lost air superiority, which is the one thing he had going for him. Flash has a Goliath over there, and I do expect GG in a matter of perhaps 1 minute here once Flash manages to get these troops off. Flash does not have a secondary, I believe, actually. I think there's only an SCV over there, so actually that could be something he's behind in, but now tanks are moving in. And one thing I have to note is throughout this entire game, Siege mode has not been used once. I mean, basically, both players are just relying on mobility so much that they just have to basically blitzkrieg throughout the entire map, and we're seeing here Flash is just very, very strong micromanagement. I think he wanted to take advantage of that, not present a long game for Lomo, and really, I think it's going to be very close here. I'm sorry, it was very close a few minutes ago, but I think pretty much this is going to be over now.
Yeah, it's just a matter of time before Lomo calls. It's just a matter of time before Lomo calls GG. He didn't really get the chance to get his superiority. fOu had his starport up for longer and was constantly pumping raids from it. And obviously Lomo had committed his resources to that command center, and fOu instead had put his resources into his ground force, and he knew that he had to go for it, so he did. And he used that little superiority. But fOu did lots of cool little things here that we have to give him credit for. When Lomo had a slight advantage in raids, fOu pulled back and still kept his siege tanks in play, even though they were taking a little bit of a pounding from the raids, to keep up the pressure on Lomo. He kept the pressure up constantly. He waited till he had even number of raids up again before returning back with his raids to attack Lomo. His timing on the attack of the command center was also a stroke of genius. fOu was slightly lucky in that Lomo, even though he scouted very early, sent his SCV the wrong way. I'm not sure if that scout had gone in the right way, if he'd actually scouted clockwise, and it's seen that fOu had not yet expanded, whether that would have affected his strategy and whether he would have been better prepared for what fOu came up with. The other thing I was wondering, and now Lomo just trying to do a little bit of a counter, realizing that because he did have the 2 starports, he has a slight superiority on the air, but fOu instead has got Goliaths up. So even though Lomo has a little bit more mobility, the problem is that fOu has got his natural expo up and running, and Lomo obviously not wanting to give up the fight so early, but it really is hopeless for him in this game. But the one thing I have to wonder, when we see that game versus 4GG, is whether or not fOu went 14cc purposefully because he did not want to reveal the strategy he was going to play in this game, knowing what map he was going to be facing Lomo on. He didn't want to reveal his strategy a couple of days beforehand and allow Lomo time to prepare for it, and perhaps he hoped to lull his opponent into a false sense of security by going for that 14cc, by looking stale and by looking dull when he's anything but in this game, and maybe he didn't really care whether or not he won or lost. Obviously he wanted to win the game for his team, but I think probably in the back of his mind he decided to take the gamble and hope that he could pull a victory off with the 14cc and his superior mechanics, and if he could not, he was willing to take that risk, and maybe even his coach advised him to take that risk so that Lomo would not at least not expect this and be caught off guard, which seems to have been the case.
What surprises me is, how late I agree with Color, how late we're seeing Siege in the game. Lomo, of course, going for that second starport, now fOu sealing that economic cap. He's got that dropship out as well, and I don't think those Siege tanks are really going to be able to stand up against that dropship along with the Goliaths. The Goliaths can just load up and do kind of Goliath bombs across the top, and I think there's enough that he can really do that combination. I think it's just a matter of time before he takes those rates out and before he decides to do that. Keeping that dropship very well hidden in the background. In the meantime, both the rates go down. I expect to see a load up immediately after, and those 3 tanks clustered up perfect for a Goliath bomb. But yeah, I think fOu's decision to forego Siege tech really paid out at the beginning, so he could produce additional rates, even though he had the single starport. Here comes the drop now. Beautiful, right on the line, just beautiful. Bringing up that tank to absorb any attacks in the meantime. Both those tanks going to go down to the south, and that third tank is just completely hopeless, and this is probably we're going to see GG from Lomo, because I don't think he has any additional attack forces, and fOu doesn't even need to push this. He just needs to make sure he stays on defense and make sure his additional command center goes up, and it's going to be 3 bases to 1. There's nothing that Lomo can do. Lomo now just trying to get his secondary up, and as you can see, he's only got that single tank defending in the meantime. But anyway, SCV saturation way out of favor, but not going for that additional siege and producing basically just straight additional tanks and then Wraith alongside. I think that 150 gas, just that conservation of it really paid off for him. Not to say that was a game changer. I think fOu would have won it either way, just because of the positioning he had, but now mixing it up with the dropships on the SCV lines, once again disrupting Lomo's economy, and still just 1 tank, and that tank's not going to be able to siege. Needs to run away really fast though, because there goes that Wraith. But yeah, I just think fOu top to bottom looked really key here, and the one X factor I think is in my head is whether Lomo had scouted properly or the correct direction or not. But honestly, that's part of StarCraft. That's something you have to deal with playing in the dark. And I'm surprised he didn't even send out a second SCV, knowing how often fOu has been 14ccing lately to make sure he got that scout off. I know that's somewhat unorthodox, but still.
Yeah, and dropship going down here, sorry. Dropship going down, but I think this is pretty much still over. And GG coming from from Lomo here. Flash taking the first game, I wouldn't say effortlessly. Lomo did show some very good Wraith micro, actually, as he did against Conroy. I believe in one of the games he actually won for 2-port Wraiths against the Zerg, which is absolutely rare and spectacular to watch whenever it comes up. But really, I think the rumors of Flash's demise are premature. I think our little Napoleon, while he's suffered a few setbacks in the last few days, it certainly has not met his Waterloo. He has still a long way to fight. I am rooting for him, I have to be honest here, and I do hope that he shows to us he's not in a slump and basically shows us kind of brilliant play in the later games. That's pretty much all I have to say about Game 1.
I think,
Chris,
yeah, I
do you
think
have
it's
any
very
finishing thoughts?
it's
Sorry, go
very
ahead.
easy to call slump whenever a good player loses, but you know, when you're at the semi-final stages or the quarterfinal stages, all the guys who are there usually are pretty good, and you know, when it comes to top StarCraft, small things can make a difference in a game. You know, I think the fact that Luxury caught him completely off guard in the first game was obviously a huge factor and obviously affected his confidence a little bit. He seems to be bouncing back now, and I fully expect him to go on and take this series against Lomo. I have to say, I was relatively impressed with Lomo. I have never actually seen him play before today, and I was wondering what this new kid was going to be like. I was impressed by him. I don't think he could have done much else with regards to his scouting, and I think if he expected a 14cc, even then, he didn't really need to scout much more than that because he was still going for a fairly safe-ish build. I just don't think he expected Flash to commit himself as wholeheartedly as Flash did to that attack, and therefore catch Lomo off guard. I think it's rare that you see Terran players send out 2 SCVs very early on to scout, unless they themselves are in a risky position. So I think Lomo probably didn't do anything that badly. It's just I think he just got outplayed by a better player who was more on his game on the day.
Yeah. So wrapping up there. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Once again, thanks for listening. We're going to move on to Game 2.